already talked about the Galloway childhood of James Clerk Maxwell. Today, I'll be talking about the life rather than the work of the man. That's for another episode. James was 16 years old when he began his undergraduate studies at Edinburgh University. He studied there for about 3 years. Then, after completing his course, he decided he was going to pursue a career in academic science. So, he entered Cambridge University to obtain a degree. James became a fellow at Trinity in 1855, but worried about the state of his father's health, he decided to apply to Marischal College in Aberdeen for the post of Professor of Natural Philosophy. The Scottish University term ran from November to April, so James would be able to spend the summer with his father at Glenlair and be a little bit closer to him during term time too. They had always been close, exchanging lots of letters whilst James was away from home. Unfortunately, by the time James was appointed at Aberdeen, his father had already passed away. John Clerk Maxwell died on the 3rd of April 1856, with James right beside him. They had spent the morning gardening at Glenlair together. After his father's death, James felt his presence in everything at the house, so he went back to Cambridge to continue as a fellow before his appointment to Aberdeen. Now, although John Clerk Maxwell was deeply involved in the building of the kirk at Corsic, he is buried alongside his wife here at Parton, because it was not until later that Corsic became a properly incorporated parish of its own, something which James played a crucial role in later in life. James was quite lonely at Aberdeen. He lived in digs there, and as professor to potentially impressionable students, he felt that he didn't have anyone to relax with. He would often go to visit the principal, Daniel Dewar, and this is how he met his future wife, Catherine. Catherine was often unwell during her life, and James looked after himself during her illnesses. This changed his social life and seems to have led to a lot of resentment of Catherine. Still, she helped him with his experiments, working instruments while he made observations. She was also apparently a little bit afraid of the prospect of her duties as the laird's wife at Glenlair. After a merger of Marischal College with King's College in Aberdeen, James no longer had a post there, but he soon found himself another tenure at King's College, London, where he began his work in 1860. In London, the Maxwells lived at 8 Palace Gardens Terrace, Kensington, close to Hyde Park. The attic was converted to a lab where James and Catherine performed experiments for his research on gases. He also taught a weekly evening class at a working men's college through the Christian Socialist movement, a class that he enjoyed more than teaching his much richer students at King's College. He wasn't entirely happy living in London, in spite of being able to work alongside Michael Faraday, a scientist who had inspired him for many years. So, although a great deal of his groundbreaking work was done there, he resigned his post in 1865. He returned to Glenlair and set about rebuilding the house, trying to complete his father's vision for it. He also had time now to dedicate himself to his own researches. The workload in London had squeezed his time for that. James was a religious man too, who believed it was his duty to understand the world as God had made it. After he passed, his cushion and his books on the pews at the kirk at Corsic were left in place, complete with his doodlings in the margins. This was in no doubt because he was greatly respected for his role in the establishment of the permanent kirk there. The parish of Corsic was incorporated in 1863 and James became an elder. As first trustee of the kirk, he was involved in raising funds to help make it an independent church too, because many of the parishioners at Corsic were too poor to help. James had also been long interested in the local school, helping to provide books for the pupils, and then, when it was threatened with closure, making plans to build a school run at his own expense at Glenlair instead, although this never came to fruition. He helped with the building of the manse for the minister too, and inside the kirk there is a stained glass window dedicated to him, depicting the 3 wise men observing the Star of Bethlehem. Also inside the kirk is a plaque dedicated to his memory. James was lured back into academic life in 1871 when the chair of experimental physics was founded at Cambridge. James was appointed as the first chair and oversaw the building of the Cavendish Laboratory, funded by the Duke of Devonshire. Unfortunately, James was forced to retire all too soon due to his own ill health, and he went back once again to Glenlair, where he and Catherine lived out the sadly short remainder of their lives. He died on the 5th of November 1879 and was buried here at Parton with his parents. All his life, James had been a lover of poetry, often writing his own. The landscape of his home greatly inspired him in both poetry and his research.